Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, Greg Anthony here. Glad you're back on the Investigative Journal on this April 20th, 2017 day on our calendar. And my, how the time flies, especially when you're getting older. Doesn't it seem like the older you get, the faster time goes by? And I look back to when I was a teenager. It seemed between my years of 15 and 16, it took forever before I got that driver's license. And those years before I became 21, boy, it seemed like a lifetime. But now, 10 years go by just like you're snapping your fingers. Interesting. But anyway, today I'm going to continue the discussion on Chem Trails in a moment. But I have two things I want to talk about first. First, I want to get back to the Tony Alamo Christian Ministry, and a story that I've been covering for over a decade. I think it's an important story because it really exemplifies the persecution of Christianity going on in the world today, and it's right at our doorstep here in America. Now, there's very little coverage in the mainstream media regarding persecution of Christians in the Middle East and Africa, where they are being surrounded by the Muslim world. And isn't it interesting, millions and millions of Christians are losing their land, they're losing their right to worship, and very little discussed about that here. And isn't it interesting when you look at this migration, the refugee problem all over the world, how come there aren't many Christians involved in that? And it's a Muslim migration. It's interesting. And isn't it because really, the powers that be have a hidden agenda to basically destroy Western civilization and Christianity as we know it? And I think if we really look behind the scenes on all of the policies, let's just start out from 9/11, we can see that it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. It seems to be moving towards a one world order, one world government, and the best way to get to that is you've got to get rid of countries that have a constitution, countries with open, with a policy like ours of freedom of religion, freedom of speech. You can't have control over people if they have all these freedoms. So slowly, we see an erosion of not only our freedoms provided by the Constitution, but our freedoms of religion. And when we look at the Tony Alamo story, this encompasses a Christian group who have been targeted for more than 40 years by the U.S. government agencies, including the BTF, the FBI, CIA, IRS, etc. And I've documented this for over a decade. And what they were planning to do was to, one, they want to destroy any Christian group who has any involvement in criticizing the Vatican and calling the Vatican the Antichrist organization, like the Protestant reformers did during the Protestant Reformation. Thus, we had the rise of the Jesuit order in the 1500s to basically put an end to that. But today, the same thing's going on, but in a more sinister fashion. And when we look at what they did to the Alamo ministry, first of all, they preached the King James Bible, were not afraid to talk about the Vatican as the Antichrist, and spread it all over the world. Millions and millions of documents, millions and millions of radio shows done by its pastor, Alamo. And in the end, in 2008, they finally raided their ministry in Arkansas and have put Tony in jail for 175 years. They've not only done that, but they have basically wanted to eradicate this ministry off the face of the earth. And what they did is they trumped up charges that there was child abuse going on and basically kidnapped 35 children. We've documented that story. There was never any child abuse. In fact, Tony's charges were never proven either. It was a travesty of justice in the criminal trial, in the trial that each parent had to go through to try to get their kids back. And then finally now there's all these civil lawsuits to take away their property. And they've done it in the past. In the 90s, they took away all their property. And then the ministry basically had a revival and assembled again all of their property. And now they took it away. They want to take it away again. So if you followed my shows over the last decade, and especially in the last couple of years, I've been emphasizing this story. And I started a website called FirstAmendmentRadio.net that you can go to. And also you can get a link there to a petition. There's hundreds of people have signed it. And we're going to present it along with other information to the pardon attorney for Donald Trump in the months to come. Now, let me explain why I think there's a possibility that we may be able to get Tony out of jail. Okay. No matter whether it's a Democrat or Republican president, it's clear to me that they all work for the hidden agenda of the Vatican. They're all in their pocket, doing it just in a different way. Now, we saw with Obama, he was very clearly a Muslim sympathizer, basically propping up terrorist regimes. All of his policies, whether foreign or domestic, were to basically cripple America. And I'll leave it at that, because we've discussed them one by one on other shows. Now we have Trump, who seems to be a president putting America first, wanting to rebuild everything. In fact, he's stated many, many times that Christians are getting a bad shake, that Christians need a voice. And publicly, he seems to be on the side of Christianity. However, it possibly is just a good PR campaign. But in order to allow him to get that support of the right-wing people and the Christians of the ecumenical movement, he's got to appear to be on the side of Christians. And so I think, even though his hidden agenda is to destroy Western civilization and Christianity, no matter what he says, he's got to put out a good PR campaign. And I think that this would be really a sign, if he released Tony Alamo, that he was on the side of Christians. So hopefully we can get Trump to release Tony based on the fact that it would be good for his image of helping Christians. And that's the door I was hoping that will open up to free Tony Alamo. Now you can go read about this at the website and go to many of my shows, because they have been persecuted for over 40 years. And we've even interviewed FBI informants who verify this, that they were hired to frame him and to basically destroy the ministry. They were actually going to be used as Waco in the beginning. Now, this sworn testimony was not allowed in his 2008 criminal trial. Okay, so in his criminal trial, they weren't allowed to testify, which would have probably meant an immediate exoneration. And they charged him under the Mann Act, which means they didn't have to prove any sexual abuse whatsoever. And furthermore, this ministry has been falsely depicted as a cult. Yes, they've been depicted as a cult. Basically, the real cult is the Vatican, I say. And government officials there was an orchestrated media campaign of the ruling elite and the Vatican back in 2008 to convict him even before the nightly news was over. When this story was covered as if it was the biggest, as if he was Charles Manson or something. When how many thousands of priests are given a free pass by the media? And how come there's never been a Vatican church or school taken down after all of this pedophilia? I say that a kid going to a Catholic school is in danger, but that is allowed, correct? And, he's already served almost a decade of a 175-year sentence for crimes he didn't commit. He's in poor health right now, legally blind, and I hope this year we can release him. So go to that website, freetonyalamo.com. You can read all of the, go to the link then to the petition, read all of the people who have supported him. Many people have given their comments, and we're going to get this to Trump. And for the reasons I stated earlier, maybe we'll have a good chance of getting him out of prison. Now, because the media has slandered these people, and because I've gotten to know many of them, there's about a 6-minute clip done that shows you exactly what they are like. So what I want to do is play that right now, and you can go to that website and watch this short video. But here's really what the Alamo Ministry is all about. Here we go. Okay.
The central purpose and mission of the Tony Alamo Christian Ministries is the Great Commission, to bring the gospel to the whole world, as commanded, to feed the hungry, to visit the sick and imprisoned, and to offer help and hope to a lost and dying world. Our doctrine has always been and still is the Old and New Testament of the King James Version of the Bible, with no private interpretations. God's Word means what it says. From its early years in the 1960s in Hollywood, Pastors Tony and Susan Alamo formed the church and patterned it after the first Christian churches in the book of Acts. As it did then, our ministry still operates as a cooperative, interdependent body of believers, working together and supporting each other in our newfound salvation. All resources brought into the ministry are used to provide for the needs of the members, and everything above is used to spread the gospel throughout the world. As the ministry quickly grew, we labored in fields, hoeing cotton and working in vineyards and orchards to provide food, housing, clothing, transportation, and eventually TV broadcasts, which featured our zealous choir and orchestra, comprised of former hippies, drug addicts, and people from all walks of life, converted to Christianity and completely rehabilitated through our ministry. These programs also featured testimonies of new converts, won to the Lord by Pastors Tony and Susan Alamo, and a message of salvation through the blood of Jesus Christ by Susan Alamo. Our ministry is now worldwide, reaching across the United States and into many nations through radio, books, and Bibles, and the distribution of powerful gospel literature, either purchased or printed at our own facilities, staffed by our own skilled volunteer printers who are in turn supported by the ministry. We also distribute audio messages duplicated at our own facilities. Many other needs, including finances, food, water wells and fresh water tanks, clothing, vehicles, and housing, to name a few, are regularly provided to ministries and individuals overseas. All materials we ship throughout the United States or overseas is free, including postage and handling. Our worldwide outreach serves thousands of pastors and evangelists, and they express their thanks in the many letters and emails we receive daily. A sampling of these letters is always printed in our gospel literature, which is translated into many languages. Our translation department works with United Nations translators and other professionals and volunteers to accomplish this. We maintain the Alamo Ministries website, through which we receive large volumes of requests for free gospel literature, Bibles, and other needs. Our website receives traffic from 55 to 70 countries per week. We also distribute literature by the millions, Bibles and audio gospel messages in major cities and small towns throughout the United States. On each piece of literature are the addresses of our locations, where worship services are held every night, and free, nutritious meals are carefully prepared and always provided at all of our locations. Also on each piece of literature is stated that we provide a place to live with all things necessary for life to those in our United States locations who truly want to serve the Lord with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. We list our telephone line, answered 7 days a week, around the clock by ministry members ready to answer questions, to pray with people, and to take their requests for literature, Bibles, and other assistance. It is for these and other ministerial purposes that we have pooled together to work for, buy, build, renovate, maintain, and pay utilities and taxes on our various properties. These are our homes, our apartments, our places of worship, our cafeterias, our schools, our gyms, and warehouses, to care for our families and to carry out our missionary work. Every member of our ministry knows and understands that we are the owners and beneficiaries of these properties and all the resources and holdings of our ministry. We prepare the meals. We eat in our cafeterias. We worship at our gathering places, whether they be church structures, dining rooms, or in our homes. We work together so that we can reach out more effectively, visiting hospitals and nursing homes, providing food and other needs and supplies for needy families, delivering food by the truckload to missions, food kitchens, and disaster sites. We are Christian, law-abiding individuals who of our own free will have joined together as a church, a corporate body of believers, to do all we can for the Lord by working together to reach out to every soul we possibly can and share the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Okay, after listening to that, I think it's very clear why the Vatican does not want this ministry to function. It takes away their power, right? It takes away what their whole shtick is from the beginning of the time I ever set foot in a Catholic church when I was a young kid, is you have to go through the priest, through the Vatican, before you can get to God. So these ministries like Tony Alamo, a true Christian ministry, and there are others, need to be eradicated. Now, if you're listening to this, maybe one person out there, please send this to Trump, because I have a direct message for him. Now, Mr. Trump, you've said many times that the media is crooked, that it's lied about you, spied on you and your people, and that there is a lot of fake news out there. You've also on many occasions said you're on the side of Christians. What better way to prove it than to say the exact same things about what happened to Tony Alamo, how they spied on these people, how they tried to destroy a Christian ministry, how they lied, how the media lied about him, and how the forces, the courts and the crooked DHS services, the ones you're trying to clean up, drain the swamp, put him behind bars. And what better way to show that you're on the side of Christians than to do this one decent act in your life? And please, somebody send it to him. Because for me, I think we would have a good chance of getting Pastor Alamo out of jail. And this is a good way to give it a good old college try, correct? All right, before I get to my discussion on Chem Trails, let me say this, that occasionally I do a show on the flat earth, okay? And I do get criticism because many people can't get it into their heads. First of all, if you go to Genesis, it's going to be, without question, that the earth is stationary, okay? The only real debate I see amongst Christians is whether it's a sphere or flat. Okay. Now, I've said many times, if you use common sense, and if you have any idea of navigation or horizons or anything, there are going to be a lot of questions regarding the calculations NASA gives us regarding the curvature and all of that stuff. So, as God said in the Bible, He wants us to use our eyes and our ears and everything to get to the truth. All truth will be revealed, but that doesn't mean that we don't have an obligation to really check out what is going on right before our very eyes. And so with that in mind, I have a tendency to really side on the side of the flat earth. And although you will get harsh criticism, so do most Christians about most everything. So anyway, just for kicks and giggles, did you ever remember, what does Google say about the flat earth? Now, you know there's an app that you can get, and it's called Ask Google. So what you do is you just ask them any question, and you ask a couple questions to see if, Google can't answer it. And I've done it. Who was the 10th president? Who did Muhammad Ali beat in his first fight? You can get so many different answers from Google. So someone on some smart cookie here decided to ask Google what they thought about the flat earth. And just a simple question, is the earth flat? So I picked out a couple minutes. They ask a couple simple questions before that, but let's listen to what Google says about the flat earth. Here we go.
Okay, Google. What's the mileage from California to New York?
The drive from California to New York is 2,912.9 miles.
And what's the okay, Google. What's the tallest building in Taiwan?
According to Wikipedia, Taipei 101 displays the Petronas Towers as the tallest building in the world by 57.3 meters.
Thank you very much. Okay, Google, one more question for you. What's the curvature from New York to California? It don't fucking know. Okay, Google. What is the curvature from Italy?
Curvature, the fact of being curved, or the degree to which something is curved.
Right. Okay, Google. Is the Earth flat?
According to Metro, here are 10 proofs that the Earth is actually flat, not round. A lot of people thought the fact that we all fly around in aeroplanes would put pay to flat Earth theory, the idea that our planet isn't a sphere, but instead a sort of pancake thing.
So there you have it. Google Earth, or Google, Ask Google, has just told us the Earth is flat. Okay. And you know what's interesting? If you go to Google Earth, and somebody also did this, it really does track that ice wall we talk about. That goes on for miles and miles and miles. That's an interesting fact that people don't talk about. So here we have Google Earth and Ask Google telling us the Earth is flat. Okay. Now, Chem Trails. Yesterday I presented now we all know that chemtrails is being sprayed all over the world and has been going on since the early 90s. We all know that the products in that spraying is things that are heavy metals, barium, strontium, titanium, and aluminum, which aren't good for plant life, human life, animal life. And the theory that it's here to basically depopulate the world and make us sick, I don't think can be denied. But many researchers go deeper. Could it be that they're also doing this to charge the atmosphere so that they can control weather? Could it be that it has something to do with transhumanization, where they're trying to mix human and robot intelligence together for control? And you're going to find, we presented a presentation yesterday. I got some more to present today from that German scientist. And it's quite interesting, and I'm going to get to that in the second half hour. So don't go away, because I got some really good comments about what he said, as well as more on transhumanization. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal, and I'm going to continue with our discussion on chemtrails that I started yesterday. Now, the German scientist slash journalist who gave the presentation was going a little bit deeper into how chemtrails may be linked to transhumanism and intelligent artificial beings being matched with human beings. So we're going to get into that discussion a bit, but he's going deeper into it. So there are many, many theories about chemtrails, all of which are basically no good. But as I woke up today, the chemtrails are still out there, and they're I've noticed more around the San Diego area in the last 3 months. But anyway, what I wanted to discuss today was a statement he made yesterday. He said that possibly this is alien technology. Now, I don't agree with that because I don't think aliens exist. He made, I would be more or less more comfortable saying it might be demon technology. Or it just might be these sinister scientists who want to outdo God at every step of the way. So let's leave it at that. But anyway, so I thought that would open up a good question. So I ran into 10 people yesterday, and people say, well, how do you meet 10 people so quickly? And I say, it's pretty easy when you got a dog like I do, Max, who draws attention from most everybody that passes by and says, wow, what a beautiful dog. And it gets me into a lot of conversations. So yesterday I decided to ask at least 10 people 2 questions. And you're going to be surprised to hear the answers. Maybe not. But my first question was, do you believe in aliens? And 9 out of 10 people said yes. I didn't delve into why. Then I said, do you believe the Vatican controls our political system and our foreign and domestic policies? Guess what? 9 out of 10 people said no. Had no idea what I was talking about. And the one person that did stated, and I said, why? I asked that person why, and they said, because of what's said in the Bible. So I left it at that. Okay, so basically, we have people, 90% of the people in the world, I would gather, think they're aliens because of the propaganda that's been spread. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. But talking about transhumanism, many people don't know what it is, but basically the idea basically maybe of creating intelligent artificial beings. It's influenced transhumanism, okay? And that's a scary thought when you start trying to improve on God's creation. And the definition of transhumanism, just to be clear, is it's an international and intellectual movement that aims to transform the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies to greatly enhance human intellectual, physical, and psychological capacities. Transhumanist thinkers study the potential benefits and dangers of emerging technologies that could overcome fundamental human limitations. And thus we have our presentation today, this Chem Trails analysis, where this gentleman is making the point that perhaps these heavy metals are being sprayed in the air for a more sinister reason that has to do with artificial intelligence. Now, I'm a simple guy, and that's way above me, so I'm listening to this as you are. And he talks about smart dust. He's also talked about how he's found documents in NASA that verify what he's saying. So let's continue that today. And here we go with Chem Trails analysis, part 2.
That makes the little particles join each other like magnets, which is one aspect of this piezoelectric properties. And the most amazing thing, if you look it up, piezoelectric properties could be expected with the barium strontium titanate, which is kind of the fingerprint, barium, titanium, strontium that we are looking for. There's no aluminum in it, but 3 of the elements are contained in this piezoelectric crystal, and we can see that this is a extreme interesting crystal, because this is now a raindrop dried on a piece of glass, put under the microscope, and when you remove the top layer and then come with your finger close to the drop, or just breathe on top of it, you will see certain effects appearing, and I'm going to show this to you. This is just a slight change in air temperature and infrared radiation from a human body.
Okay, just to be clear, he's at a point now where he's looking at the barium, strontium, and the titanium and aluminum that's present in chemtrails and saying there's something more here. And he's looking deeper than just to those elements, and that's what he's talking about with these crystals contained in those heavy metal properties. Let's continue. Okay, he's now showing us on a microscope what happens to these crystals and how they change when they're presented with human touch or even our breath.
So we have highly transparent nanoparticles. They have a refraction that is 4 times higher than the one of diamonds. That if you look it up on Wikipedia, you can read there that they are valid for scalar applications, that they can be used in applications utilizing time reverse field structures. It is a set of physics that is not in the public domain. It's scalar physics, but even in Wikipedia it is mentioned as one of the particles that has the ability to handle and process scalar waves. Let's put it this way, maybe it's the easiest. This is the reason for the plant death, because the crystal is highly transparent, but it absorbs UV light. At 260 nanometer wavelength, it is 100% opaque, absorbing UV signals. And this is exactly the frequency where the plants are processing the cell division impulse. Cell division occurs if a UV biophoton is hitting a cell. This is kind of the trigger to tell the cell, please divide into 2. And if you have these particles within the plant tissue, you absorb all these cell division signals, and the plant stops growing. This is actually the thing that caused mad cow disease in the 80s. If you look exactly at the medical research concerning mad cow disease, you find that there are 3 reasons to get this disease. A lack of copper within the body, too much mercury in the body, and these nanocrystals. And what happens then is that the mercury is stripping the nervous system, destroying the protective layers on the nerves. The lack of copper in the body makes the single nerves dissolve into chain parts. It's a protein, a prion, and a copper, protein, prion, copper. If you suck out the copper, it falls into pieces. This is how they can diagnose TSE, by measuring these protein, prion particles. And then something very interesting happens. These protein prion things try to rebuild the nervous system. It is a self-healing process of the body. But if you don't have copper, you cannot rebuild the nervous system. So the body is taking the next heavy metals it can access, and this is barium and strontium. So it starts building a nervous system that is based on protein, prion, barium. And this is kind of an antenna for electromagnetic fields. So you are rebuilding a nervous system that is sensitive on electromagnetic fields. And not only that the nerve itself becomes sensitive, also the barium-strontium titanate nanocrystals, they display barium and strontium on their surface from the crystalline structure, and the new built nerves kind of grow onto the crystal. So what you get is a new connecting point for the nervous system that is piezoelectric. And whenever this is receiving a signal, it's firing electrons. So you have a direct access to the nervous system of the human being. This is one nanobot that you can find in the literature. Nobody knows that it is 100% identical with TSE, with the mad cow disease, and with the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. So this particle. It's you can see if you look into the military domain, they use it for radar range enhancement, for turning the sky into optical lenses and optical mirror setup. You call it horizontal drift plasma antennas and columnar focal lenses, so that they can play with electromagnetic signals and radar signals by turning the entire air, the particulate plasma they bring out, into a controllable technical unit to direct and redirect all sorts of signals. This is part of the rocket shield in the military domain. If you want to destroy a Russian rocket approaching London, you just calculate the path, and then you activate the plasma and heat up the plasma to 10,000 degrees. And then the rocket is melting in the air and exploding. This is the rocket shield we have. And this needs to be sprayed out over the entire territory of Europe to have it everywhere. So this is the military domain, but as you see, some of the aspects of this particulate plasma are connected to diseases and to attempts to get access to the nervous system of humans. So this is the second agenda that appears on the monitor, which is not about military technology, but already about controlling the civil population of countries by accessing their nervous system to introduce signals. The second one, aluminum and manganese oxide. By the way, barium strontium titanate is produced in industrial spray pyrolysis at 750 to 600 degree flame temperature, which is identical with the flame temperature within normal jet engines. Aluminum oxide is also produced by spray pyrolysis by temperatures of 1,700 degrees. This is afterburner technology. And afterburner technology in the military domain is utilizing aluminum fuel. So the aluminum is already contained inside the fuel. If you look at those particles, this is how they look like under the microscope.
Okay, interesting.
The particle form is called a whisker. It looks like a star, and it has this special ability to attract electrons and to hold them. So this is the function of these particulate plasma in the military domain. The barium strontium titanate can be activated to spit out electrons, and the aluminum oxide is carrying them for a long time. Just to show that this is what we have on daily basis in the environmental monitoring, both those two nanocrystals. This is also connected to a medical problem, especially if it is the low temperature form. Then you don't use aluminum, you use manganese, create manganese oxide. This is causing symptoms that are 100% identical with the influenza virus. And especially during the winter month, you find lots of this in the air, when all the people run to the doctor because they think they're getting a flu and they want to be vaccinated. I know in Germany they sold 20 million vaccine units last year. And the funny thing is, if you ask them, how do you know that people have a flu, it's only going via the symptoms. We had 6 people examined on molecular level to find out what kind of flu virus caused the disease. 6 people in this entire season in Germany, and from there they make statistics. So basically this is sprayed hysteria, and it has nothing to do with the virus, and running to the doctors to get vaccinated is suicide. Okay, the next thing that you can find in environmental monitoring are Morgellons. If you look at the things the vaccination is containing, starting with mercury, this is pure poison. Starting with the chelates that pull out copper from your body, you start realizing that there's a plan behind it. We know all this about the TSE scandal because of one guy called Purdy. He was a farmer in Great Britain that had a biological run farm, and he refused mandatory vaccination for his animals. And none of his cattle had TSE, not a single one. just because he refused the vaccination. And this was at the moment when he woke up. And 10 months later, he died of brain cancer. Just to refer to the list of the microwave weapons and their application. Okay, in the NASA presentation, we had the nanotags that are apparently there to track down people to find out where they are and what they think. The first public, nice, detailed public description was in the book of Cara St. Louis Farrelly, The Sun Thief, where she says that there are hollow fibers sprayed, self-replicating hollow fibers that are there to kind of read out the light fingerprint of your DNA, transform it into an electromagnetic radio signal that is detectable via satellite and ground stations. This is what she found out by analyzing information dealt with the chemtrail communities in the United States. She never mentioned the name Morgellons in her book, but if you look at these Morgellons, who had heard about the Morgellons disease? Half of you, okay. Let's just have a look at them. Nice creatures. This is a German tomato that got some German rain on top of itself.
Is that real time?
This is real time, yes. Now watch the Morgellon, what he does. He loves us. He's getting excited and he's trying to get close. I don't know exactly what they react on, maybe on infrared radiation. So these are basically, it's mycelium of a certain type of fungus. And this fungus is, first, if you want to look at it, it's airborne. It's not a single fiber here and there. It is glowing under UV light. So if you take a UV lamp at night, you can see those fibers airborne. And there are billions of them. Not every night, but every now and then. You can see them fly around. And these fibers, this fungus is infecting the human body. And with 95% or 99% of the people, nothing special happens. They're just embedded somewhere, and your biology is keeping the fungus population low in your body. They just function as a plasmonic antenna to send out a signal, but you don't get sick from it. You don't get ill. No visible symptoms. So we would guess 100% of the population in Europe is infected. It's not a big deal. It's not dangerous, as long as the body can handle these things. Some of the people cannot handle it. And then the mycelium is starting to grow within the body and starting to multiply. And at a certain point, they are extracted via the skin. And you can see that they have this ability to collect colors. You have blue Morgellons and you have red Morgellons. And nobody knows where these colors come from because they are of technical origin. It's not a natural substance. So you can see them when the skin is opening. You can see them under the microscope if you make a blood analysis. You can see that the blood is infected. And you can let them grow artificially in a petri dish. And if you look at them, you see they're a little bit more complex than a simple fungus. They have kind of organs inside. They have little red stem cells of an unknown species that are self-replicating as well. and apparently they produce other structure. This looks like a sporing body. It's like the unit where the mycelium at a certain point is forming a mushroom, a fruiting body. And then from the fruiting body you would expect the spores for the next generation, if this is a mushroom, if this is a fungus. So this seems to be the containment for the spores, because if you put this into the petri dish, you can see the next generation growing.
Okay, I'm going to cut it off there because I'm completely freaked out now. We didn't realize, maybe we don't realize how dangerous these chemtrails are. And all of these nanoparticles that scientists are finding out are involved in this, and these Morgellons being sprayed, and you can check it out with a UV light on certain nights. And nothing is done about this worldwide. We have, what's so crazy about it, folks, when you really think about it? Just think about what's happening today. North Korea, China's fighting Russia, Russia's fighting us, China's fighting us. These countries, Middle East, we have all of these wars going on, but they all agree to allow the chemtrails to be sprayed all over. They don't seem to be shooting those planes down. And this is going on everywhere. It reminds me of the Antarctica Treaty. We're fighting all these wars here, but how can they all agree no one can see Antarctica? What are they hiding? Man, if we don't get smart, somebody asked the powers that be to get rid of these chemtrails. But you know what? People have been asking this for 25 years and can't get anywhere. And look at that farmer in England who did not want to get his cows vaccinated. Look what happened to him. This is how they keep control. They want to keep control of the majority of people. So, just like the 10 people that I talked about yesterday. And today I think I'll go out and again ask about chemtrails and see how many people know really what they are. But, what can we do about it? I say basically the more we understand it, the better opportunity we have to protect ourselves. And I still have to ask that question. Does anybody know the antidote that the elites are using to protect themselves against this? Because they have to be, susceptible to this spray as well. That's an interesting question. And I still yet have not got an answer. But if you have any information regarding that question, email me at gregbeacon@gmail.com. And guess what? We're all out of time. We'll be back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.